Welcome to the Alchemy of Ascension Season 3, harmonizing light and shadow to embody your mystical power and purpose. I'm your host, Washela Sananda, and today it's my pleasure to introduce you to Christina Miglino. Welcome, Christina.
Thank you. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure, and I know that our viewers will love learning more about you. So just before we begin, so that people can have a little bit of background on you, I'll read from your bio. Christina Miglino works with visionary women, healers, artists to call in their soul's mission, align with their divine gifts, and birth their creative visions into the world. She is a shamanic guide, energy intuitive, and channel of the three. Christina has studied performance, visual art, shamanism, energy medicine, Buddhist psychology, attachment theory, family constellations, and meditation. So you have an extensive background, and I know there are a lot of different things we can dig into, but since this is the first time I've interviewed you, I would love for you to share a little bit about your origin story and how did you come to be a channel? How did you get to this point in your life?
Yeah, sure. Oh my gosh. I feel like it's like I've had many lifetimes in this one lifetime, if that makes sense. So it has been quite a journey. I've done a lot of shadow work because of my life experience. So I was saying with Shayla before we started today that as a child, I got really, really ill. This is sort of a shamanic story. If you've studied shamanism and know how a shaman was claimed by a tribe, it's often that a young child gets sick or has a near-death experience and then comes back from the other side, right? And they're the shaman or the teacher or the medicine person. So for me, it was, I grew up in a very like humble home with a couple siblings, never had much of anything. It was quite a struggle in my family just to pay the rent and get by and all of that. And then I got just horribly ill. I had migraine headaches since I was 3 years old. So that's been an interesting thing to learn from my whole life. And then by 8 years old, I was put into the hospital and I was diagnosed with brain cancer. And they didn't think that the brain cancer actually correlated with the migraines. So the pain of the migraines brought me in. And then they did an MRI and said, you've got this tumor in this very center of my brain. And, they immediately told my family that there really isn't, it's very unlikely she's going to survive this. And a surgery into the center of your brain, there's 50% chance you would make it through that, right? So, or less. And it's a tough story, but I just honor it now. It feels like such a gift as I'm saying it to you. So yes, it's like very emotional and all of the things, but it is my, going in the shadow to excavate the gift story. So what happens is they end up putting me, so interesting. Western medicine is fascinating. They put me in the child psychiatric ward of the hospital and moved me in to be there for a while. And I was very much also very shamanic, that story of sort of being with children who are diagnosed with all these different diagnoses. And here I am kind of like, they don't know what to do with me. And this is what they do or can do with children when they don't really know what to do with them. So they moved me in there saying that they were going to do pain management therapy with me. And it just ended up being like very scary, actually. I was terrified. And I was in a lot of pain and I was 8. So it's like my parents dropped me off there, and left. And they would visit once or twice a week. There were only 2 days that were visiting hours at the time. So it was really, you know, I studied attachment theory later in my 20s because I was like, I have got some attachment issues, you know. But you know, the interesting thing is that one night I really suffered. These migraines were very debilitating. Like I would be in bed for a week with a migraine, you know, unable to even like open my eyes. And I was really suffering one night, and I was laying in my little bed, and I just was praying. I grew up Catholic, so I was like praying to God to just let me go. Like this is not working, and it's way too hard. I can't do this. And the next thing I know, I am literally like outside of my body. I'm flying through space into this massive void. And I come into, it's very typical like near-death experience, right? I come into this big shaft of bright white light, and I am totally in bliss. Like, this is better. Like, I'm going to stay here. And these two angels come in. And we're talking about angels like the visions in the Catholic Church, like just bigger than life, flowing skirts, you know, and music playing and stunning. You know, they're like light body angels, right? Like they're the most beautiful thing in the world. And they just tell me, we're your family and we will always be with you, but you cannot do this yet. Like it is not time. But we wanted you to see us. We wanted you to know that we're always here. You've always been connected to us, you know, and you're going to be okay. And you're going to help people, but you're little. So just go back and like, you know, make it through this childhood. I was a very old soul. So I was like, okay. Oh. So I went back, and in the morning I jumped out of bed and I drew pictures of the angels, and I felt very transformed. And yet here I am, 8 in a medical institution, and now I've got to work this out with the people who are actually in charge of me, because I'm little, you know. It's like my soul knew, my soul was like elated, and my little person was like, how am I gonna like get the adults to let me out of here and move on, you know? And so I did. I totally pretended I was healing. I pretended I didn't have pain anymore. I just made up a bunch of stuff, which is like kind of crazy in a way, you know, because you're like, wow, you learned that when you were 8, but think about it. Like children are very bright, you know? This story always makes me think about how brilliant children are, because we know everything when we're that age, you know? So that here I am, you know, lots of ups and downs. I would say the other like huge, well, there's been several, but other big catalytic moment in my life was losing my little sister about 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I also was with her the whole time, and I really got to work with her soul, and she communicated with me the whole time. And she was in a coma for weeks before she passed. And it was one of the most incredible experiences, because although absolutely tragic, she was 25 years old. I had already been through something where, you know, it was like this weird, not that I would ever wish this experience on someone, but to be honest, it totally catalyzed my own work. Like it catapulted me into a whole nother layer of understanding the soul, you know, understanding healing and energy work and light work and all of that. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm sorry for the loss of your sister in body. It's always a lot to overcome, losing a family member, and how beautiful that you have that communication and that open knowing and understanding with her and with the divine. Which makes it easier, but still losing a family member is always difficult on the physical, human level.
Sure, it is. And it's also, I think anyone who's had this experience would also most likely agree that love, you understand love in a whole nother way. And I think that's the thing about the shadow and the light, right? Is so often I think, as spiritual people and people who are like really excited to keep awakening and ascend, we can get sometimes really caught up in like the light and the bright and the pretty sparkly things. And I'm a big fan of the fullness of life, and that's what I believe a mystic is. That's really how I identify, like in my internal world, is like, yeah, it's the fullness of being, right? Because if I don't experience the shadow, I'm not even going to notice the brightest light, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, we need the contrast in order to appreciate here. It's just the dynamic, and it's also the opportunity on this dimension of this 3D world. We get to experience polarity. We get to experience negativity and positivity, love and the opposite of that, and everything in between. And if we only have love and bliss and rapture, that's a different experience that's going on somewhere, but that's not what this one's
Yes.
for. So having the polarity experience, I think we came here for that. I think that's part of why we're here, not to get away from it, but to integrate it, experience it, become more aware, due to having the opportunity to have these experiences, even though they're painful. So you dealt with illness and pain and cancer and hospitalization and separation from your family and that loss of your sister and all of these things. You've had a lot of shadow to integrate through your time, and then also these high highs of experiencing near-death experience in your angelic family. So how have you alchemized that and taken that and had it deliver you or birth you into this next phase of your being and where you're at now?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And it's like, okay, let me find the words, because so much has happened. I'm 35 years old, and sometimes I think, wait, I get to keep going? Like, that's so exciting, because I feel like a lot, you're right. It's been a very transformational life so far. The good news is things are starting to settle in my own life, which is really nice. Yeah, how did I do it? Okay, so I think something that I don't know, you know, there's a conversation around, is this something you're born with, or is it learned behavior or whatever? And that's about like this resilience factor, right? So something in me from a very young age has known, I remember when I was really little, like known that I was meant for something big. And I think a lot of us have that, and it's, can we, through our darkest nights of the soul, can we still remember that little kid who knew? And I think for whatever reason, I mean, I was in an abusive relationship that was, awful. And just, yeah, there's been a lot of things, and everything I've gone through, I have been, on my knees, sobbing, not wanting to live before. So whatever you felt in the darkest moments, I have felt. I have lost the thing that I love the most. Like, I have been through all that stuff, and it wasn't pretty. I wasn't, part of it is I didn't avoid it. I went into it, so I think that's one of the things that we get to be, fierce in our healing, and recognize that, that whole thing of like, if it doesn't kill you, it's going to make you stronger. And it's true, over and over and over again. And here's what I would say about Ascension. Like, when I work with my guides, I'm a very clairvoyant, right? I get a lot of visuals, and they're showing me in metaphor, and it's really interesting. And one of the beautiful visuals that they give me when we're talking about Ascension is this beautiful spiral. And I see the heart as a place of, the heart is a portal. The heart is like the portal of the soul. And I really, when I tap into this, I see this fire, right? So you're talking about like alchemy, right? And the hearth is like this hearth. It's like our touchstone of our soul. And the visual is this beautiful spiraling that gets more expansive as it goes upward and outward. And it also is, you know, the opposite too. So it's happening both directions. And why I say that is because we can sometimes get caught up in thinking that ascension is about going upward and merging with spirit and it's all done, right? Well, actually, ascension is happening right here in the human form. This is the gift, you know, is to be in the human form and to have this beating heart, you know, that is really like a stand for our soul work and our soul purpose, and this portal that connects us to our multidimensionality. So when I tap into this beautiful spiral that they're showing me, they have showed me, and I think this is really for there's something real about it if we could see energy, but it's very much also for our own mind to understand that on one side of this spiral, like we're doing this as we ascend, but on one side is our shadow and one side is the light, right? And we're gonna keep doing the loop. So it's not that we're gonna be goodbye shadow forever. It's like we keep coming back, but the nice thing is as we expand, we're coming at the shadow from a different place. Right. And so it's like we have this new vision. And that's been my experience. You know, I think sometimes, definitely in my 20s, did I think I was a victim of my experience? Totally. I was like, what? How did I pick this? Like, this is awful, you know? And now what I see is like, oh no, I definitely picked this, because now from where I stand, I get to serve my women that I work with from a very egoless place. And that actually is probably one of the most exciting things. And one of the things that it's just not, it's rare. You know, I think it's rare to be able to say, like, I have no attachment to your healing. It may or may not happen, but here's all the tools, you know. It's a very neutral place. So I don't know if I'm answering your question at all, but I think this ascension spiral is what I've been on my whole life, and now I get to sit in that fullness of like playful and joyful and goofy, and also there's nothing that I can't hold your hand and walk with you through, because it's not about avoiding the shadow. It's about like really just diving right in. Right.
Yeah, that's very well said. It resonates with my work so much as well. And I tell a story about, I call it the spiral staircase. And you're the same thing. You might feel like you're in a dark place, like you're, you know, descending in a sense, but you're always going up. You're just coming around the dark side and you're still going up. You're going to find yourself in
Exactly.
a brighter
Yes.
place. And the portal of the
Yeah.
heart is a big part of my work as well. So I love what you're sharing about, and I really feel the connection to your work. So I'd love to hear about, you know, you talk about being a channel of the three. Can you tell me, you know, is this a collective consciousness, and a little bit about what is this channel, or who, or however you want to say that, and
Yeah.
what type of information comes through?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, it's a learning experience. I'll first say that, where in time I'm still learning about these guides and this collective that's come to me. And I think what I'll say before I go into like who are the three is that anyone can channel. And what we're doing is we're channeling life force energy in maybe a little more expansive way than the average person is doing. Everyone is a channel. Everyone is, by the nature of being here and having a soul, we have a very deep connection to spirit and the oneness of all things. That's not even a choice. Like that is part of this experience. And so I knew, so let's see, going back to the angels, right? I've always felt those angels. So growing up after I met them, it was like, it was almost strange because I always knew that there were these two light beings with me. And it was really beautiful when I stepped away from the typical Catholic Church situation in my teen years. I was like, okay, I'm just going to focus on the angels and do my own thing, you know? And I played with like witchcraft and all the things that you do when you're a teenage girl trying to understand, you know, this power within me. Um, and so I feel like I know them on a very deep level. What has come into consciousness in just the last couple of years is that they're part of this collective that I've been working with my whole life. As a shamanic practitioner, so I've been doing that work for about 12 years now. And I studied for several years with a teacher and did advanced training. And so I've been meeting guides. I mean, I have many, many guides that I have met over my lifetime, and guides that work with clients, guides for all different come to me for different purposes. The three feels like, how do I explain it? We all have, I believe, this group of higher consciousness beings, benevolent beings that are, I like to like visualize in my mind, like when we feel weak, they're so just holding us. They've got us, you know? And as I've allowed myself to come out of the spiritual closet and just say, like, I see, hear, experience things all the time from the other side. It's not weird anymore. It's not hard. I have a really good boundary with it. You know, I'm not like flooded with things that I don't want to look at or anything. It's very purposeful. And now I used to do, like last year I was doing a lot more closing my eyes and channeling messages. And it was me feeling out like what really resonates and works for me. So for a while I can do the auditory, like just allow them to come through. But what I was finding as a woman today, I was like, but I really want to be a part of this. Like, I want to be more conscious, like Abraham Hicks style, you know? And I realized that my gift is communication. I've been a speaker for many years, you know, and I thought, well, it would make sense that I just was more serving people as I was receiving information. And so that's what I do now. I often give to my community, you know, I'll do free hour-long like Q&As with the guides, and we all just come together, and inevitably what people ask is serving many, you know, it's always serving more than just that person. And the three, so I'm trying to think, like, when did that come in? Oh yes, so I was asking for a while there, even just a year ago, I was asking like, what do I call you? You know, because it's obviously a collective. I've got the Pleiadians, I've got the shaman. Really, the shaman comes through me really strongly. And then the divine feminine, you know, really the goddess is a lot of times the one speaking through me. And I would say those are sort of the energies that I'm really clear on. I have a really strong, more recent connection to the Hathors as well. I mean, so it's like, how do I explain it? So it's like this collective consciousness, and then different energies will step forward, like, hey, we want to work with you, it's time. Right now that's what's happening with the Hathors. So I'm really hearing them these days and working with my clients. But when I asked the question, well, what do I call you? You know, they were like, well, it doesn't matter. And if you want to call us the three, call us the three, you know, and they're really speaking to like the power of the Trinity. And it's interesting, someone pointed out, because I write it out and then I put the three up against the E, and somebody was like, well, it's like if you turned the three around, right? And I love that, because it's like, yes, it's like your higher power, you know, it's you too, it's me too.
Yeah.
It's not like I feel that I am outside of that higher consciousness, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And anytime you're a conscious channel, that channeled information is coming through your consciousness. So you're inevitably part of it, because it's your thoughts, feelings, ideas, knowings, understandings that it's filtering through. So you must be part of it, right? And I was getting the picture of that too, the triangle and the triangular portal that the Trinity information comes through, and that is the divine masculine, divine feminine, and the divine within being, you know, like birthing new creative energy all the time. So that feels like what the three is all about. And then, of course, from there, anything could be included in that that wants to contribute to that experience of infinite creativity.
Exactly. Exactly. You said it beautifully. Yeah.
Well, you know, so did you, and I was picking that up from what you shared. So beautiful. So I mean, would you want to share from the three with us? Is that something you do? I don't want to put you on the spot, and I didn't ask you that ahead of time, but
That's okay. I can share a little bit about what they've been like bringing up in me lately. The way that I usually do it is a lot of times I want to tap into the field of the people who are listening to really serve them. I don't do like I said, I don't step back and just have them speak through me, but I'm happy to either answer questions that you have and I can speak to that, or I can just sort of like tune in and see if there's anything additional that they want to share. Yeah.
okay. Well, how about we'll start with a question, and then you can, you know, if there's more,
Perfect.
certainly they can take it and run.
Yeah, sure.
Um,
Sure.
okay, so you know, I love digging into the theme of the summit, and part of that theme is the embodiment of, you know, like combining the shadow and the light, but really to embody your mystical power and purpose, because I feel like so many people are desiring to know themselves as more than just these three-dimensional, you know, human, but
Mm,
we feel our expansion and our multidimensionality. So how can we embody that
mhm,
and be more of that as we step into
mhm.
empowerment?
Yeah, I love that. So what they're showing me as you're speaking is literally taking the energy from the mental realm down into the body. So this is something that they've been showing me for the last couple of years about what's happening between moving from the Piscean age into the Aquarian age, right? So we're really collectively, if you imagine everything is energy moving and vibrating, that we are yearning to actually embody, like you said, this more expanded self. And we're doing it. It's happening. You know, the guides are like cheering us on. They're like, you guys are doing it. Keep going. This is a really scary, weird time, we know. And it's simply that on the planet, because of our history, we really do have to look at things clearly. So we're moving out of a time of spiritual bypassing, and we're moving into a time of really embodying the the soul. You know, the soul for a lot of us, they're showing me like they're like, for a lot of you guys for a long time you've been like dangling around, you know, not utilizing the body because you've judged it. You know, many of us spiritual people have judged like, oh, the 3D, you know, you're so 3D and you're so 5D and I want to be more. It's like we have just sort of taken spiritual language and deformed it, you know, and stayed in this lower frequency vibration of right, wrong, good, bad, you versus me. And the guides are showing that in bringing the soul in bringing the energy from the mind, which is not really that helpful anyway right now, to be honest. The mind has its use, but it's not really a helpful decision maker. So they're saying like once you can really bring it down into the body, once you've really allowed yourself to feel the importance and significance of the other minds that you embody, the heart, the womb space, you know, you're going to experience life in a very different way. We are going to experience life in a very different way. And they're saying that it's almost like a radical act, but it's not going to be as scary as a lot of us think. You know, for a lot of us, we think if we stay up in the clouds and up in our head and even like up out of our body, that somehow we're going to stay safe. And it's actually the opposite. If we don't claim these bodies, why will we remain on earth? You know, like that would be not the best use of our experience here, right? So it's really interesting. I haven't said it exactly this way, but the guides have a way of speaking to those who are listening. So interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. I do feel like, there are a lot of people experiencing what we like to call ascension symptoms, or symptoms of, to me, it seems like it's the trying to fit more of our spirit into these bodies, and not really knowing, as the earth energy is shifting and expanding, and as we're expanding, how do we fit? And then there's this
Yeah.
like experience of lots of physical symptoms can be, have been reported from that, myself included. I've experienced some. So is there any advice on how to integrate and how to sort of relieve ourselves from some of these imbalances or disharmonious experiences coming from the process of attempting embodiment of our multidimensionality?
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you big time. I've had my fair share of like the ascension headache and oh yeah, they're really were, the guides, the way I think about it is that the guides they're shifting our DNA. I mean, our DNA is changing. So how that feels, it's happening quicker than ever now, right? So how it feels in the body is like, because the body is the most dense aspect of our spirit, right? It's the most dense aspect of who we are. So energetically, to think about like for your bones to shift, for the DNA that makes up this body, it's not comfortable, for sure. It's not comfortable. And a couple things come to mind as far as like, well, what can I do? One is I say yes to it. I know that sounds funny, but expanding in the places where you feel really contracted, and probably where you're feeling ascension symptoms or pain or difficulty sleeping are places where you're feeling a little more constricted. And constriction is always going to make things feel more uncomfortable, right? It's just like giving birth. If you can breathe into it and you can allow yourself to relax, you're going to give birth in a more easeful way. Same thing with like ascension headaches, right? It's like, gosh, you're fighting, our human selves are fighting, like, I don't want to feel the pain. When really, if we lean into, oh, this is ascension, and we surrender, and allow ourselves to breathe and say, yes, I'm up for this, because the truth is, if it's happening to you, you're doing the work. So that's the cool thing, is if it's happening and you're experiencing the symptoms, which by the way, most of our physical ailment is ascension, by the way. We're getting really big downloads really fast. So even illness, cancer, even those really intense things are you shifting and transforming and really clearing out to be able to hold this light in a different way. There was something else. Let me see. The yes for sure is a really important one. I use that a lot, where I just like breathe in the yes so my body relaxes into it. The other one is, it seems obvious, but picking out the ways that you really serve the multidimensional self within you. So, and the multidimensional self in the body, right? So, for example, bathing, like taking a long bath in a way that like you're really celebrating yourself. You've got candles and it smells good, and you've got Epsom salts or whatever you do, your essential oils. That's just like one thing. But water is it's like that element is, for me, very healing, and a way that you're going to really shift the energy, just by saying, okay, I'm just going to take care of myself right now. Pain is a really great indicator that all we need to do is stop and serve the goddess within. That's it. It's like very simple. It can feel intense, it can feel extreme, it can feel like, oh my God, is this ever going to end? And all it's asking you to do is pay attention and serve yourself. You know, and a lot of the ascension symptoms, it's the same thing. The guides are doing the work. You are so held. I mean, it's exceptional if we could just imagine, you know, what we can't see. We are being so held up right now. So letting that be true, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Pain indicates that to stop and serve the goddess or God within. And
Yeah.
you know, when we are in the present moment and we really get present with whatever it is there, I find that when I can do that, and rather than, you know, we have this tendency to push away and like, oh, I don't want to feel that, and try and we resist and resist and resist, and then we can just get present with it and surrender to it. It's not as bad as it feels when you're resisting. And that's not to say it doesn't exist, but yeah, you, like you're saying, to lean into it, like just, okay, I'm just going to allow it, this pain, to have its space or its voice or its being, and not push it away, not try and hide it or get away from it. The surrender can actually open up into really clearing the pain.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think surrender is a key to healing. I think it's really, really important. More maybe even than we even know how to articulate yet, you know, that moment of surrender. And it's interesting. I know some people, just because of conditioning, think surrender means like to give up or to, you know, weakness or something. And it's like surrender is actually an energetic experience. That actually just says, it says, I'm going to breathe now, and I'm going to trust, and I'm going to let go of my attachment, and I'm going to see what this is going to teach me now. You know, it's really kind of powerful, actually.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. I have a story to share about that because I think it exemplifies the point. But I was at a meditation retreat. This is years ago when I first moved to Florida, and I had a fear of alligators. Having just moved to Florida, I had a young child, and you know, just to say, just fear of, I don't know, if there's a predator around. I had never been around, you know, living in a place that had that before. So in this meditation retreat, things kept coming up that brought up my fear of alligators. And I was really deep in meditation, and an alligator showed up and wanted to eat me. And I realized in that moment in this meditation that was very, you know, it was very real because I was so deep in it. I had two choices. I could surrender the fear and let the alligator do what it does, or I could back away and continue to experience this upset, this fear of alligators. So I decided to just go with it. Like, okay, let's go ahead. What are you going to do? The alligator ate me, and I was excreted into the bottom of this murky pond. And the next thing that happened was I started growing. I was a seed, and I grew up into this beautiful lotus flower at the top of the pond. And as the leaves opened up, all of my petals soaked up the sun, and it was an ecstatic experience that I would have never been able to feel or experience in that state of resistance and before the alligator consumed me. So, I mean, it was really blissful and beautiful. I'm like, wow, that's what's possible on the other side of fear, and the courage to lean into the fear. Now, I'm not saying in physical life, let an alligator eat you. That's not quite it. But I was willing to go within and confront that fear and allow myself to really face it, like facing the demon, the shadow.
Yeah.
And then something beautiful, really beautiful came out of that. And I transformed my relationship with, I'm no longer fearful of alligators. After that, I let
So
that go.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
So
that.
I think that's the experience that we're talking about here. Um, Leaning in, and the surrender is surrendering the thing that's taking you out of living you know, a more multidimensional life or a healthier life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So is there anything more that the three would like to share with us about any topic?
Let's see. Yeah, it's interesting. One of the things that they've been sharing that they're sort of pointing to, and I was mentioning this to you also earlier, just that, I work primarily with women, so I talk about women a lot, and it doesn't actually, it's not meant to take away from men. I adore men. I just know that the work that I'm doing right now in this moment in time is most supportive and working with groups of women. So one of the things that the guides have been sharing with me is that, so we're going into, 2021, Age of Aquarius. This is the year of the Hierophant in the tarot, if you follow that kind of thing. The Hierophant is really the spiritual teacher, mentor, guide person, and what the guys have been sharing is, and this sounds, this is big, that they're sharing that women are, first of all, have no idea their power, right? A lot of us are feeling it, like starting to like rise within us. We are, using our voices more, we're speaking out more, we're walking through the fear of what could happen if we're seen and heard in a big way, and we're doing it anyway, and that's beautiful. What they've been sharing with me and what I've noticed through the Mystery School of Intuitive Intelligence, which is my community of circles of women, is that healing is very natural for women, that we are healers, we are creators of life. So to be a creator of life is to be a healer, because we don't bring life in and not nurture and tend to the needs of that life. So the guides have been like, look, healing is absolutely possible like that. Now, I say that again, I'm always checking myself, because this is not about saying like, all you have to do is think it and it's going to happen, right? Ideally, someday, yes, we're getting there. But when women come together, so even you and I here, we are doing some really beautiful work just by being here together. Because when women come together and see each other, it magnifies. The gifts magnify, our voices magnify. There is a massive ripple effect because we are so powerful. We might not even know that yet, but because of this innate gift of creating and healing, we can work magic just by showing up. So something that the guys have shown me through working in my community with the women is don't underestimate the role of the witness. Don't underestimate the role of the supportive one. You may be supporting someone else doing their work. You may be listening to a dear sister who's going through something, and you may receive a massive healing because you are open, because you are present, because there's a network of intuitive intelligence that connects all of us. You can't even get away from the miracles. Like they're right there for you. So that feels like very, very important that we just start to tap into that. And this may, I can just feel some of the people listening and watching, like with questions and like, how does that even happen? And just allow it to, like, just allow this to just open a portal for you. You don't have to understand all of it yet, but just imagine that it's very natural. It's not some magical thinking per se, that we are these great healers and creators. It's actually our nature. It's actually very much coming into the human form and having a womb and being that vessel for life. Like, we can really create anything. So healing is not outside of that. We can literally create and heal. That's what we're here to do. So it's kind of big stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. And to be the portal of life, that is so powerful. and multiple ways. You know, there's the birthing of an actual physical body, another human, but there's also the birthing of ideas and energies and all kinds of other creative things. So we are, you know, infinitely creative. Um, and, you know, another story just to exemplify that. I was just at a Dr. Joe Dispenza retreat for 7 days. And there are these, we do coherence healing circles. So in this one, it's a little different since things are just arranged differently right now, but there's someone being healed and then the group healing the person being healed. So the healies and the healers, but inevitably, many of the healers get a healing of whatever, you know, could be anything, but the healies get their healing, but the healers get struck by this energy. By opening up to be the conduit of healing, you become healed. And it's such a beautiful thing to be a part of, to witness, to experience, and then to carry that into life. Wherever it's whatever we're putting out is what we're receiving. And just to remember that, you know, focus on what it is that you want to experience and see, because that's what you're going to receive back. Sometimes subtly, but sometimes very intensely and profoundly.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've seen it time and time again in my community where, you know, women report, I was just helping so-and-so, and we were just going through, you know, her healing experience. And then all of a sudden I, you know, was flooded with memory or flooded with something of my own. And I realized I released whatever, you know, was holding me back in that moment. And yeah, it's not unusual. These stories are like happening more and more, right? And it's just the invitation to say, don't hold back. You know, if you feel a great service, you will absolutely receive from that. You know, service is a huge part of, I believe, like the expansion of our missions, you know, coming from that place of, I know for me, every day I wake up and I just say, like, let me serve that to the highest and greatest good today, you know? And that has been one of the most healing things for me, of course, right? Because I'm only going to call in that which is also going to be, I'll be able to serve greatly, but also be served, because it's all one thing. We can't escape
Yes.
it.
And when we give, we open to receive, but we also do have to be open to receiving. I think that's something I notice with a lot of people in the world of spirituality and healing. They're very generous givers, giving and giving, and then not so good, not everybody certainly, but sometimes not so good at receiving or asking, or even being open. And I think that might tie into worthiness, like this feeling like I have to give, but I'm not worthy to receive back. Speak to that if you
Oh,
would.
I was just going to say, I've so been there. I mean, that's been a lot of the work that I've done on myself and in my life. And, you know, there's a part of me, I get like fierce mama bear about this, because it feels like I want to be like, how dare you? Not in a mean way, but in a way that's like, okay, if everything is energy, which we know, right? If everything is moving, if everything is energy, if everything is connected, then only giving is literally counter to the nature of the universe. Giving and receiving is absolutely paramount if you think you're going to have any impact in the world at all. If you want to be of great service, this is where it's kind of funny, right? It's like, I think if I just give, you know, then I'm serving my greatest ability. No, because energy will not expand if you're only giving. Energy wants to be, you know, pour outward, and it wants to come inward. It's like the tides, right? It's like the waves. If you want to know what your relationship to money should be, or to time, or to any type of energy, look at the cycles of nature, look at the waves, look at the tides. You know, you will have big influxes of things pouring in, and you will have big influxes of things pouring out. And that's the way it should go. So we have this perception like, you know, especially as women, and this is so because our power was so co-opted for so long, we just got it twisted, you know, we got it twisted that somehow I'm only worth what I can give. When we receive, there's a type of giving that is happening when we allow ourselves to receive from someone. So think about it. If I'm a great giver and I'm talking to a great giver and they want to give me something, if I'm refusing to receive it, it's kind of like saying it's you versus me. If we're in this together, you know, and we're going to actually have an expansive experience where, you know, now I'm able to serve more people or whatever I do in the world, right? I can support and heal, and it gets bigger and grows, and we grow in this community together, then I've got to be able to receive. It's actually crucial. It's crucial to your healing. Mm-hmm. If you have a physical ailment, look at your relationship to receiving. For women especially, you will find a relationship because it's all energy. You know, I have a couple clients who, this is so wild, but even this last year, I've had a few women who have experienced cancer, like tumors and things that have gone away in our work together. Now, I'm hands off with the miracles. Like, they happen because women come together, okay? It's not because of me. It's because of what they're willing to, where they're willing to go, how they're willing to surrender, all of that good stuff. But that happening, it's happening because they're willing to receive. Yeah. It's happening because they're willing to love themselves for maybe the first time ever in their whole life. Like, for real, not the kind of like, yeah, sure, I love myself, not the bypassing, but like the real, I am going to learn to love myself fiercely in this physical form, you know? I mean, massive, massive miracles happen. It's amazing, you know, but it has everything to do with receiving. So I'm so glad you brought it up, because it's more important than it's more important than, you know, receiving money. It's more important than, you know, receiving things. It's like of the utmost importance that we get, and that this is how energy works. This is how life force works.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Thank you for diving in. And as I'm looking at you, I don't know if it's actually a heart behind you, but it looks like a heart expanding. And as you're talking, I'm just like, oh, it's like, you know, the heart expansion into receiving, and, you know, you give and that person's heart expands. And all you can do when your heart is expanded and open is you want to give more, and then you give more, and then that person receives it. And, you know, it is truly the open flow of giving and receiving. And like, how much can you receive, and how much are you going to stop yourself from receiving because it's scary or too much, or, you know, and then can you open up into it a little more and allow that pouring in and the pouring out? And that is how we expand each other, and we stop competing, but instead, you know, share and collaborate and pour into each other and naturally expand from that place. And that is just the beauty of the experience of spiritual expansion.
Totally. Yeah. And our ability to give more only increases with our ability to receive more. So it's funny, right? Because we think like, oh, I'll just keep giving, giving, giving. And then what happens is we usually burn out, we get sick, you know, something happens that says like, hey, you've misunderstood this whole energy thing, like the way this works. And we start to learn that the more that we receive, we actually can give from an overflowing cup, rather than, you know, every bit of me I'm trying to give. And that's actually, you know, I mean, this is like a whole nother conversation, but that goes down the road of like martyrdom. And again, it's putting us in this place of a lower frequency that says, you know, I've got to sacrifice. I mean, it's very much like the Christ lineage story, right? It's like, I've got to sacrifice myself so that someone else can have the life that they deserve. And again, it's just that we got it twisted. You know, in Buddhism, they call it like a samskara, when the energy twists and it's totally misunderstood. And again, when there's energy twisted, like, we get to do the work to untwist it so that the love and light can flow again. So we have to understand it is never about giving up your light for someone else's light, ever, ever, ever. There's more than enough. It's everywhere.
Yeah, indeed. And then as we expand, we can hold more, they can hold more. The whole reality gets to hold more. So it's a service.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We will end there. I thank you for your time and your energy and your channeling and all that you've contributed here. I know so many people will be expanded from it. And to everyone else, thank you so much for watching. Bless you and namaste.